And a happy Friday afternoon to everyone. Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights, VELCO Weather Hazards Forecaster. First thing, it stands out like a sore thumb, and that's this subtropical area of low pressure. It's tropical cyclone number 16, potential tropical cyclone, and it is forecast, and it is powering up. It's got some winds associated with it, and also some pretty heavy rains to its north, and this is all tracking into the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And this is going to take a track into the Middle Atlantic states. It looks like it drives across the Chesapeake Bay and in the vicinity of Washington, D.C., and it just kind of hangs around or lollygags around and meanders. So that's going to be with us. It's going to push this chunk of moisture into basically southern parts of New England with some pretty good rainfall. And a little bit of that is going to make it into Vermont. It looks like maybe the high water mark, as far north as it's going to go, is going to be roughly about Burlington to St. Johnsbury and points south. I think the northern tier remains dry, and that'll be associated with another area of higher pressure that'll be transiting and building across eastern Canada, and then put the block on the remnant here of Tropical Cyclone 16, or potential Tropical Cyclone 16, as we're calling it. Often you're seeing also some really warm temperatures in South Texas, a little bit of a dampening down of summer, and a little bit more of an autumnal look. The Atlantic Ocean is still rather busy with several waves of low pressure coming off of West Africa, and this is our next system. This one will spin up to, it looks like, a Category 3. And right now, this is Invest AL90, making a track that will then recurve and just be a problem for shippers off of Europe, so no other worries there. Let's take a look at the modeling. European on the left-hand side, we have the GFS ensemble on the right-hand side. And this is our subtropical potential cyclone 16. And it will make this sort of a curve here and then work into the Middle Atlantic states around the Chesapeake Bay, up the Potomac River, and around Washington, D.C. area, and just kind of meander around. This northernmost side is going to have all the heavy rains, and that'll be spreading northward. So let's take a look at that. So this is our area of higher pressure exiting out of the region. It's been a pretty one, and we're still seeing that effect from that area of higher pressure on this Friday afternoon. It's beautiful. A little bit of smoke layers aloft, but nothing major. So here comes the rainfall. Now, looking and comparing notes, pretty good comparisons here. Models are in very good agreement. So this is valid at about 18Z or about 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. It kind of flirts, it looks like late in the day in the southern counties of Vermont, as you can see here, and I'll give you the 0Z. We're seeing very similar conditions on the GFS ensemble. So these two are in very good agreement. So we have this sort of one impulse. You can see this sort of subtropical moisture that's going to shoot off to the east. And then we still have this meandering area of low pressure, which then kind of makes a track a little further to the north. And this second pulse moves in. This is going to be arriving on Sunday, and it looks like it gets into probably it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday afternoon. And it either is about the Barry-Montpelier area and points south, maybe just a little further to the north around Lamoille County. And overall conditions are looking pretty good for the northern areas, which could stay dry thanks to this building area of higher pressure. Now watch what ends up happening here with this area of higher pressure. 1033 hectopascals, not bad. That's going to put the dampening touches here and kick that system southward. 1035. It looks like we're looking at drier weather that develops not so much on Monday. Monday's kind of unsettled with a couple showers there, here and there, in the morning hours especially, and then things do dry out, and this area of higher pressure will be in control for a good portion of next week. This is valid on Wednesday. We'll take you into Thursday, and then even on Friday, the 29th of September, and we'll go about as far as we can go here. It looks like Friday evening, we're into Friday night, and it looks like some showers will start to creep in, GFS ensemble, and then the European still keeping us dry across a good portion of New England. GFS ensemble centered on Montpelier, Vermont grid. This is at 06Z, so 2 o'clock in the morning, and most recent. And you can see just a little bit of shower indications here, according to the GFS ensemble. And maybe the European would have a little bit more than that, but really we're not looking at anything major. Dry ahead of it, and then dry behind it. looking at the total amounts of QPF, not much. We're looking at under 1/10 of an inch, so we're talking about 5/100ths of an inch here. Again, this is centered on Montpelier, so further off to our south, this would show up a whole lot more. There is one outlier here. You can see that at one point, some of the models are indicating about almost a 1/2 an inch. That has since been reduced back. Checking, we looked at the total QPF. Let's take a look at 850 temperatures. You can kind of get an idea. Just a little bit of a dip in temperature here along about the 26th, and then a slight warm-up. So a couple different air masses working in, mostly a Canadian air mass that's going to cool things off. And things are not really looking too bad at all. Precipitable water-wise, we're looking less than 1 inch amounts here. There was a little bit of an uptick here. This is again associated with tropical depression or tropical cyclone potential number 16. And then we're looking at slightly drier air before a little bit of an uptick later on. Nothing to see here, pretty limited. And in terms of precipitation type, it's going to be all rain. Weather Prediction Center showing about 25/100ths of an inch here. This is sort of the high water mark. 1/100th of an inch all the way up to the Canadian border. This is probably going to be a little bit further to the south, but we'll have to wait and see. Again, this is the next 7 days of total accumulated precipitation. Looking at the climate reanalyzer, what you can see here is kind of neutral to slightly below normal temperatures, and then it's warmed up in the middle of North America. A little colder on the west coast with a trough of lower pressure that has moved in, but it's warmest up in parts of Canada. Indeed, there are more flare-ups of wildfires. I talk about rain-cooled air. This is a great example of that with this Mid-Atlantic subtropical cyclone. It's going to cool things off of -6 degrees temperatures anomalies for the next 5 days of higher temperatures. But up in our neck of the woods, it's being further to the north, we're looking at anywhere from 3 to 6 degrees above normal. About 3 days later, very similar conditions. A lot of that moisture spreads in, and rain-cooled air is the name of the game. This is the European ensemble. This is our system here. You can see that you're looking at 40 to about 50 knots of wind before it kind of falls apart, reduced to 30 to 40 knots of wind, and it stays to the south of our region thanks to this area of higher pressure. This is another system that'll make a right turn and pretty much go out to sea, but it could spin up to a Category 3. And looking local again, another nice day in progress on this Friday afternoon. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.